Amazing. All right. I think that I'm sure more folks will hop in, but I think I'm going to go ahead and just get started because I'm super excited. All right. First off, my name is Carly. I am an instructor for Codesmith. I work for the full-time remote immersive program. Super excited to see you all here today and to be able to chat with one of my friends and former coworkers, Eden. Eden, I would love to have you introduce yourself in a second. But just want to say that he is incredible. I'm really, really excited to be able to, first off, just hear what he's been up to at his job and to catch up with him, but also for you all to be able to benefit from all the answers that he has and the experiences that he's gone through. So really, really glad that Eden was able to join us today. I'm sure he will be dropping the gems. But yeah, Eden, I'll pass it off to you. Do you mind just introducing yourself a bit and just telling us what your role is right now?
Yeah, first, thanks, Carly, for having me, and thank you, Codesmith. It's always a pleasure being here. So my name is Eden. I'm currently in New York. I work at the New York Times, and I've been there about 9 months now. Uh, I'm in the ad tech domain over at the New York Times, and kind of my tech stack. I use React, TypeScript, and a lot of languages that we learn over at Codesmith. Um, and then I ended up in Codesmith actually because of a talk similar to this one.
That's so amazing. I love that. Thank you so much for introing yourself. Super excited to be here to chat with you all. Definitely make sure that you think of any questions that you might have for Eden. We're going to be chatting about a variety of things, his Codesmith journey, what it was like after he left Codesmith. We're also going to chat a bit because of the holiday, want to make sure that we pay homage to Juneteenth and the spirit behind Juneteenth. So we're going to be chatting a bit about diversity within tech as well. So super, super excited for today. Let me just make sure I'm not missing anybody in the waiting room. Okay, cool. Awesome. So just wanted to get started by asking you, Eden. You mentioned briefly that it was an event like this one that led you to Codesmith. Do you mind just expanding on that a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. So, um, starting a little bit with my background. So I came from teaching. So I used to teach middle schoolers and high schoolers math and science. And it was a great time. And I actually got the opportunity to teach computer science to them as an extracurricular. And during that time, when I was teaching them or learning computer science so that I can give them the knowledge, I realized, wow, the barrier to entry isn't so high. Like it's not as scary as they make it seem in the movies. You know, when you see the green screen, the black screen with the green typing. So I started to embark in learning tech on my own. Um, and as I'm like doing research and learning, I stumbled on YouTube on a video of a few Black engineers at Codesmith talking about their experience. After listening to their experience, I just got so excited. I was like, okay, um, learning on my own is great, but the community is calling me. So I just was pulled and I took the leap. I did the assessments to come to Codesmith, and yeah, here I am now.
Amazing, amazing. I love that so much. It's super beautiful. Do you remember some of the first things that made you excited about code in particular? And I'm also really curious to hear from folks if you want to put in the chat like some of the things that make you really excited about code and coding and software engineering in general.
Yeah, great question. Wow. I think it was about learning languages. So I'm big into traveling. So during my time in college, I studied abroad in Ecuador and Kenya. And I particularly went to Ecuador so I could learn Spanish.
Mm.
Um, and the idea of learning to communicate to computers, I was like, oh, I can do this. And I think that's what really supercharged me into being fascinated. Like, there's these different ways to communicate to this laptop, for example. Um, and I didn't realize then, but it actually kind of shifted the way I think. Now I can see myself organizing my thoughts in different ways. So I think it's particularly the problem solving aspect as well that comes to coding that makes me, excited about it.
I love that so much. That's so beautiful. Yeah, I agree, folks in the chat. I think that's a beautiful connection to make. And so when you were preparing for Codesmith and when you realized that you wanted to join Codesmith, were there some things that made you hesitate? Like, were you feeling any imposter syndrome of any kind? Like, how were your feelings about that process of getting into Codesmith?
Um, I think the scariest part where I think a lot of people feel is like uh, taking a leap, leaving a good job. Like where I was working, I had the best insurance. So that was like difficult. Like I'm about to leave all these great perks to venture off to something that is new and foreign. Um, but ultimately, I realized that there's no like I was inching out of my comfort zone, and that's okay. And I think that was a bit of what was made me hesitant at first from leaving my previous career.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Eden. And when you were preparing, just
Mhm.
for the folks who are like applying for Codesmith right now, just kind of giving them a little bit of context. When you were preparing, what were some things that you found super helpful? And like what were some tools that you used in order to prepare for your interviews and things like that?
I love that question. Something that I don't like to say I wish, but it would have been great if I actually went on the Codesmith Slack a little bit more and peer programmed with folks. So I was a little shy at first. So instead, what I would do, I would take my laptop and I would practice technical communicating out loud. And that was my way of like reinforcing my ability to speak this new language that I was learning. But yeah, like I think apart from if you can find a pair program partner, that's always awesome. But something that really helped me was just technically communicating to myself out loud, any of the challenges that I was doing. I think that was major practice and major help for me.
Oh my gosh. And I love this like metaphor that you've created because yeah, Terry, I feel the same way. I think that the metaphor of thinking this is of programming as a language because it is, and that in order to get fluent in a language, you need to actually practice with other people and you need to like put yourself out there and kind of be okay with being uncomfortable. And
Yeah.
so I totally hear you. Like it's definitely pretty scary to ask folks to pair program or to put yourself out there in that way. But I think that's like really, really wonderful advice. So thank you for
Yeah.
sharing.
Yeah, I think it definitely I think something that you learn in Codesmith and over time as an engineer, you're not always gonna have the right answer. And I think that also was a barrier for me, like knowing that if I went to go pair program, I would have mistakes. I wouldn't know everything, and that can be embarrassing sometimes. But during my time in Codesmith, I realized no one knows everything. Everyone is learning. And the only way for us to learn is also to have like a supportive community and to accept that we're going to make mistakes, which is really cool. It's humbling and it's definitely a lesson that you can take throughout your whole life.
I love that. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh. Yes, Akeem, I hear you on that too. So valid. I love that. Thank you so much, Eden. Eden always has the best metaphors. I will also say, like, Eden has a great high level perspective on things. And so such a wonderful mentor. So thank you for sharing, Eden. Um, so I want to come back to a piece that you mentioned there, but I'll plug it later. But just wanted to chat a little bit about your job search
Mhm.
and about what that looked like for you. Like, how long after graduation did you end up finding a role? How were you interviewing? And a bit about that, and then we'll kind of expand on it.
Yeah. I don't have the exact timeline, the exact time, but it did take a few months for me to get my role. Um, I would say that, and you can ask my wife, it was a anxious filled time. Um, like, and she was coaching me through it. And that's why the community is so important. You don't only have your Codesmith folks, but also the people in your life to rally you through that time.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I think during that time it was just a lot of it took perseverance, and constantly accepting that I'm going to have to take as many shots as I can.
Mhm.
And that's the only way for me to get the time to be in front of the people who will see that I am a capable engineer. Um, and please, if I'm missing any parts of the question, let me know. But yeah, that was definitely, I think a lot of it was pushing through, having my support system,
Mhm.
reaching out to the support system when you're feeling down. I think that was big for me. Like, it's easy to get siloed, and it extends even to on the job. You can be working on a ticket, for example, and
Mhm.
you're pushing away, and someone might have that piece of knowledge that it'll be really difficult for you to find.
Mhm.
But having the courage to just go out and seek that help, I think that's major.
Mhm. I love that so much. And it kind of ties into something that you mentioned. So, when you're on the job and when you feel like you are stuck or you're not sure what to do next, how do you handle that now, like that you have this like perspective on of how to use your community like to your advantage? Like, how do you handle that?
Mhm, mhm. Um, I hope I'm not going too far into peeking into what you'll be doing at Codesmith, but it's great practice. Like, when you have a problem, you should kind of flush it out, and that's what Codesmith taught me. Like, flush out exactly what the problem is and what you have done. Um, so always before I'm about to reach out to another engineer, I really take my time to assess the problem.
Mhm.
Uh, what did I do? Did I do this? Did I try this? Did I try that? Of course, you're not going to get everything,
Mhm.
but for me, it's first trying to exhaust as much options that I can within a reasonable time,
Mhm.
and not letting it extend for too long. Um, and then once I exhausted my options, uh, slacking someone within my team, asking for help. And then it depends on your organization. You might end up having multiple teams. And sometimes someone on your team may not have the information, but someone at another team will. So just being able to reach out and generally let them know. A big thing is making sure that they know what you've already tried, because they'll easily give you that redundant information. You're just like, of course, I tried that already. But it's good to make sure that you communicate that as well.
I love that. And it sounds like with potentially working with many teams, you could potentially have like a lot of different mentors that you can reach out to. Do you feel like you have a lot of different mentors like at your job?
Yeah, I think that on my team, I can look up to my senior and staff engineers, but also within the greater wide organization, um, there's times where we're just getting together to maybe learn. For example, we recently had a Go course, so engineers are wanting to improve their Go skills, and we brought in an external teacher, and that was a place where I was able to meet other engineers. And now they've extended the olive branch. I can go to them, and we could pair together as needed.
Awesome. Super cool. And Go is a backend language. Is that correct? Remembering?
Yes, yes, correct. A really fun language. They have this mascot, I think it's the gopher. I feel like once I write, I haven't been writing Go at the job yet, but once I get my first line, I'm gonna really try to go get my gopher.
That's so cool. That's so awesome. Super cool to hear that you're learning new programming languages on the job and that they're like setting you up be able to take on new tasks and things. I love that. Beautiful. So coming back around to your job search a little bit. So you touched on um the time that what your strategies were in order to try and find that role and how you like kind of kept yourself together during that hiring process. For your role at New York Times, like what was the interview process like? Do you mind like kind of walking us through it a little bit?
Yeah. And just to go back a few steps about the process.
Yeah.
Another part of the process I would like to share, a big thing was networking.
Mhm.
I would send out as many LinkedIn requests as I can. But the biggest thing I felt like was actually having a meaningful message when sending those LinkedIn messages. And what ended up happening was I met a lot of people who guided me through my processes, teaching me little things along the way. That was really big for me. So extending my community outside of Codesmith, because there's a lot of engineers, and the engineering community is a very niche and tight community, which is really great. And you can find loads of resources on LinkedIn, for example.
I love
Um,
that.
yeah. And then in terms of the interview process, what was really cool is that, and you'll learn this as you if you once you get into your process of applying to jobs, um, you're gonna shoot a lot of shots, and some of them are gonna be misses. But you get practice, lots of interview practice. So I've been through the gamut of interview processes that span like 7 rounds. So thanks to that experience, it made my time interviewing with the New York Times a lot better because I've been through the ringer. But throughout that process, it's your typical hiring manager meeting. Then you have a technical phone screen. And something to think about, it's always confusing when they say technical phone screen. It's not really going to be on the phone that you're doing a coding challenge. You're literally going to be virtually doing the coding challenge. That was a little confusing for me. So I hope that clears it up for some others who may also have had that challenge.
Mm.
And then after that, we had our coding panel or a panel of interviews. And I met with various different engineers. I met with engineers on my team, as well as my sister team, and also other teams within the New York Times. And I think that helps really make it an equanimous process.
Awesome. And sorry, just to clarify, so you said with the technical phone screen, so you met with the hiring manager, then you
Mm.
technical phone screen, and so that was what again? I'm so sorry.
So yeah, they a lot of times they name it a technical phone screen, but I
Mhm.
literally had an interview virtually doing a coding challenge.
Oh,
Yeah.
got
So
it.
yeah, so normally companies will do that first preliminary step.
Mhm.
You get a feel with the hiring manager to see if you'd be a good fit culturally and technically, a very
Mhm.
soft check. And then if they like you, they'll send you, not only like you, but if they feel like you'd be a good candidate, they'll move you to the next round where they assess your technical skills.
Got
My,
it.
yeah.
And after that, you would kind of move on to like a group panel, technical. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And in my panel, there was a series of different panels, about 3 or 4.
Awesome, awesome, super cool. It's really helpful, I think, sometimes for folks to hear all of this like in depth and just to understand that, um, you know, it's going to take some practice to be able to get through those rounds, but as long as you just keep putting yourself out there, like you said, you will, and it's just a matter of time. Um, so just quickly going back to what you were saying about networking,
Mhm.
how can you talk to us a little bit more about that and like how you found people that you wanted to reach out to, like what were you looking for, and like how did you start making those connections?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think my strategy was to reach out to people that I would have some sort of interest or cultural alignment with. But also if felt like I had an interest in what they were doing, I would also reach out to them.
Mhm.
Uh, so a little bit of my strategy was I would have a document where I would kind of, whenever I made a meaningful connection, I would write down their name, their information, and kind of where we met, whether that would be LinkedIn or through a secondary connection. That's another thing. Whenever you're connecting with someone, and the first thing doesn't always have to be like, can you give me a referral? I think the main thing is let's have a conversation. I want to learn from you. And I also want to impart any wisdom that I may have. Um, and sometimes that can end up with you asking for another connection. where they can send you off to someone that may be able to help you out.
Mhm.
So a big thing was gathering those connections, keeping in contact with them, and also letting them know how my process is going. I feel like we have to have empathy throughout the whole thing. It's not about just using one another, but building meaningful relationships, because one day you might be in a position where you can help that person. So letting them know about my successes afterwards, or even my failures, so that they can maybe give me some advice on how I can move forward.
I love that. I feel like really um you really built up your network and figured out how exactly to connect to as many mentors as possible. Um, and I think it's really beautiful because now Eden is an incredible mentor for so many folks. Do you mind just chatting a little bit about how you mentor people now and like what that looks like for you? Because um, folks in the room may or may not know this, but I'm like constantly sending people to Eden because he's just incredible at giving advice and is just a really thoughtful mentor. And so just really wanted to shout you out for that, Eden, and just to ask a bit about how what you feel about being a mentor for others now.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, during my time uh in Codesmith, and also trying to get a job, I really amassed a lot of information. I've tried my best to learn from anyone that I can, and refine my process. So in refining my process, I picked up a few tips along the way. And I really try my best that whenever someone connects to me on LinkedIn, I try my best to reach out and plan or schedule some time to talk to them. One thing I do recommend is always send a message letting them know why you're having this connection. I think it's important because when I know why you're connecting with me, it makes it a lot easier for me to know how I can help. So yeah, a big thing is how can I support the community as much as possible? I want to pay it forward, and just increase my blessings.
I love that. Thank you, Eden. It's beautiful. Another question about the job search, because I think this is really interesting. How did you like what indicators were you looking for when you were looking for a job? Like, were there certain things that you were looking for that you wanted your job to have? Like, how did you know that the New York Times was going to be the place that you wanted to work? Just was hoping that maybe you could speak to that a little bit because think it's super important that folks know that you should also be interviewing, your
Yeah.
potential employers, right? Before you move forward with them.
Yes, yes. It's easy to get desperate, but stay calm.
Mhm.
Stay calm, cool, collected. Uh, they need you just as much as you need them. And when I was searching for a team, um, and it's not you're not only looking for the company, you're also looking for the right team, because each team within the company might be different.
Mhm.
A big thing was for me was honest feedback, honest communication, and honest feedback, and also collaboration. Um, so how I did that was throughout the interviews, um, that 5 minute at the end of the conversation wrap up that they would give you to ask questions. I really took seize of that time. Not
Mhm.
only did that help communicate how serious I was about working for the company, it also gave me the opportunity to vet them, um, learning about like what does collaboration look like at your company. Um, can you tell me a little bit about documentation? Are you what does your on-call schedule look like? Uh,
Mhm.
how long are engineers typically working each day? And they'll give you little signals even before that about the engineering culture. And ultimately for me was I need good feedback, good collaboration, and strong culture, which I'm thankful that I have now. For example, today at the New York Times, we have like a lunch schedule. And I think on Tuesdays, they'll pick like a different chef, and they'll take some of the different recipes and they'll cook meals from that chef. So they had like some curry, like a coconut chicken and some hoisin glazed beef, and it was really exciting to go to work and also do some of the things I like, which I like adventures. And I love to have a different palette or change my palette from time to time.
Awesome. So I love how they're like trying to um incorporate some bonding time with you guys. It sounds like by doing like these cooking classes and stuff. And it also sounds like it would just be really fun. So can you speak a little bit more to like your schedule? So I think in the past you've told me that you're going in some days and then other days you're not. Do you mind just like kind of speaking to like what a normal day might look like for you as well?
Yeah, for sure. So I work hybrid. So I go into the office 2 days a week. And then the rest, I work from home or I can work at a cafe.
Mhm.
But generally, each day is different. It depends on where we are within our sprint. So my team, we focus on agile methodology. So we hold 2 week sprints. So basically, over the 2 weeks, we'll pick up a certain amount of tickets that we plan on doing, and then we'll execute and try our best to finish as many tickets as we can during the sprint. But a normal day, I get to focus some time in the morning to work on a task or one of my tickets. Then I'll attend stand up. And then if there's any alignment meetings with the product team, I may attend those if it aligns with my actual scope. But then the majority of my time is going to ideating, assessing, or problem solving any of the tickets that are on my plate.
Heck yeah. And just like briefly, because I feel like I'm definitely interested, I'm sure the other folks are interested. What are some of the things specifically within the advertising team that you are working on right now? Like what are some of the features that y'all are building out, if you could share?
Yeah, sure. So we have a lot of different features that are coming down the pipeline. And advertising is interesting because not everyone likes ads, but they keep things free, which is really cool.
Mhm.
Uh, but some of the things that we're working on is increasing or changing or trying our best to make sure that the ads are not obstructive and giving the best experience to our audience. So if you all are interested in the New York Times or even our game section, you can check it out. And you'll kind of see that we do our best to make it seamless. That way, when you're playing that game, you don't really feel like you're missing out.
Super cool. I love it. Have folks raise your hand if you've messed around with the New York Times website, if you've used maybe some of the gaming features. All right, super cool. So shout out to Eden and his team. Super incredible work. Amazing. If you have any questions, definitely make sure that you throw them in the chat. We'll also have like a Q&A section towards the end if you guys have follow-up questions about anything that Eden is working on. Awesome. So we talked a bit about what your day in the life looks like. And I think that one thing that I wanted to touch on a little bit was representation and role models that you have and that you might reach out to on a day-to-day basis. So are there any mentors that you reach out to within your company or within the larger tech space that you found particularly helpful? Like what were some things that they may have imparted to you?
Yeah, it's actually funny. I would say like my mentor was anyone who would connect with me on LinkedIn. Like if you were willing to have a conversation with you, you were my mentor for even if it was a short time. But I'd say that at this age, I'm definitely coaching myself a lot more these days. And I refine myself through listening to others and seeing what their path is. I think YouTube University or just YouTube generally is just a great space to learn from other engineers that you may not get the chance to interact with on a daily basis. So I think that's really being my source of inspiration, YouTube and just reaching out to people. And then also something that was really cool was there was New York Tech Week was recently they had New York Tech Week. That was a great place for me to network. I've been to Afrotech, which takes place in Texas. That was a great place for me to meet people outside my domain that I would never get the chance to talk to. And even during this time, I'm still networking, just because it makes great for me to pass it forward. And also, there's so many things happening in the industry. And it's a great way for you to learn something new so you can bring impact back to your team.
Absolutely. I love that. I think conferences are so important, no matter like what stage in your tech journey that you are at. Do you mind speaking a little bit more to the conferences that you've like gone to, like what it looks like even to go to a tech conference, like just expanding a little bit more on that? Because I think they're so important.
Yeah, so one, tech conferences can be expensive, which really sucks. But what's cool is that there's a lot of outside events that happen. So, for example, I was in Atlanta, I think last year, and during that time, Render ATL was happening. I
Mhm.
didn't know, but I think it was like I just decided to research some tech events, and there was the conference was already happening, but there were so many free tech events that were happening in the area. So I
Mhm.
seized that opportunity. So there's you don't only have to worry about the conferences, but whenever there is a conference, look out to see if there's any free opportunities happening. And then go out and pitch yourself, talk to people, and also be very mindful and thoughtful about how you're going to express yourself or what you want to come across. I think I took like some time to really briefly think about how I want to share myself with others. And then Afrotech was a great time. Terry was actually there with me. It was really cool. If you can go with a buddy or with other folks, it makes it even better because you can trade information. That makes it all the much easier.
I
Oh,
love that.
yeah, Hakeem was there as well. Yes, yes.
Amazing. I love
Yeah,
that so much. That's so beautiful. Yeah, I try and like mention conferences to as many Coach Smith students as I can because I went to my first tech conference last year and just really had a blast and just found that it was an incredible way to meet other engineers, hear more about frameworks that were up and coming. I went to a bunch of really really interesting talks and just came out of it feeling uh feeling like I had a better perspective on the tech industry as a whole. And so I recommend it like for everyone, whatever stage you're at. I think it's a really, really helpful tool. So super awesome and love that idea as well of looking at the events that are happening around a conference too. Super awesome. Thank you, Eden. So I think another question that I have for you is a bit of a reflection on Juneteenth. We are here to honor the holiday that is happening tomorrow. And I think I was curious on your thoughts about how you feel like tech companies overall, or specifically, you could be talking about the company that you're working at, New York Times, what efforts they have in place to help increase diversity and inclusion, and things that you think maybe they could improve on. So maybe stuff that you have seen that is working, and maybe some stuff that you feel like might need to happen in the future. Just curious.
yeah, yeah. I think companies over the years have been doing a better job. There's something called an ERG or an employee resource group. And these are ways for people to connect with other colleagues of similar cultures or ideologies. For example, we have a Black ERG over at the New York Times, and they're always hosting events, and it gives us opportunities to network with one another. And I think that having those spaces to be able to gather and meet each other is just very impactful. Because otherwise, sometimes you might be the only person on your team that's a representation of your culture. Um, as far as opportunities, I think companies I think companies should support efforts within the space. Definitely, like for example, Afrotech. I've seen that there was a lot of companies that came last year, and I think that more companies should continue to show that their alignment. Um, Also, they support places like or companies like Brilliant Black Minds, which their effort is to, I think, double the amount of Black engineers in tech, which is amazing. Or even support scholarship opportunities for aspiring Black engineers. I think it's important to give back in those different ways.
I love that so much. I think that's so important. And I also love to hear that there's an ERG at your company, that they're pretty active, and that you guys are able to network and learn from one another. I think that's really, really valuable. I love it. Um, Up next that I wanted to ask you about, um, do you feel like there's anything personally that you have been involved with? I know that it sounds like you're involved with the ERG and that has been really impactful um, for the Black engineers that are working at your company. But do you feel like there are any initiatives that you've been involved in outside of that you feel like have really to helped with Black representation in tech?
Yeah, so I find myself to be I float around.
Mm.
I think my biggest practice is having these type of conversations, as well as just having one-on-one with folks. I think a big thing that I have is being accessible to the community. So whenever someone reaches out to LinkedIn, and make sure you send that message so I know I'm open. And I think that's the greatest way in which I'm able to impact the community.
Absolutely. I love that so much because I think that it's easy to kind of overlook how powerful those one-to-one interactions can be and how much of an impact that can make on someone and feeling like they do belong within a space or that they should have like that they do have the skills to pursue whatever job that they're thinking of. And so I think it's a really, really beautiful thing that you've made yourself available and that you are really intentional about that. So thank you.
Yeah. And nothing is a one size fits all.
Mhm.
So when I want everyone to keep that in mind as you learn about different opportunities or different ways of doing things, things can be nuanced. So that's another reason why I like to do those one-on-ones because um, it might be a technical gap that's preventing someone from getting to the next step, or it
Mhm.
can be a mental gap of not having the motivation to keep going on. So it's very nuanced, and that's why I think it's important to, if you can't seek me out, but seek someone else out and just have that conversation, just to learn where you can, shift and get better.
Yeah, I love that. And I feel like it really seems like your background as a teacher has really kind of like impacted the way that you
Yeah.
view everyone and like and how you approach each person as an individual and trying to figure out how you can best support them. And I think that's really really beautiful.
and
Awesome.
and what and that's why they need transitions in the engineering community because we bring so much of these different soft skills, for example, that might be lacking sometimes in certain companies.
Period. Absolutely. And kind of speaking like spinning off on that, do you feel like you work with engineers from a variety of different backgrounds and that like how do you see them bringing like their different perspectives to the table?
Yes. I work with many different engineers from different backgrounds. Some are coming from traditional schooling, and some are coming from other software engineering immersives. And I think that because of that, it brings a blend of different practices. Like you have those who can go really deep dive on one topic and really know like these deep different information about things. And then you have those who are able to think about the bigger picture. And then also you have various communication styles. So if maybe you don't understand a topic from one person, you have the opportunity to speak to someone else. And that's a big thing. And never be afraid to say, you know, That didn't make the most sense. Maybe if we can have that rephrased, or if someone else can share their ideas on the topic. And I think that's a big thing. And that's another thing to look within your community or team that you're looking for. Are they open to difficult conversations? Because that's when you want the most help, like when it's difficult, not when it's easy.
Yeah, I remember I was talking to an alum once, or actually maybe it was in a panel, but she mentioned she was like, a really important question to ask in your hiring process is how does this team handle when a mistake is made? When
Oh,
something goes wrong, like how do you guys handle that? What are the next steps? And so I think that goes along really nicely with what you were saying. Um,
gotta write that one down. That's a beautiful question.
Yeah, oh my gosh, I love it. Well, thank you so much for sharing that, Eden. I think that it's super helpful to hear that people are coming from so many different backgrounds and bringing their different sets of skills to the team. And also, I think you reinforced just how important communication is within an engineering team and how important it is to practice your technical communication and everything. So, love
Mhm.
that. Amazing. Um, and I have a couple more questions, but I also want to leave some time for folks to ask you questions.
Mhm.
Um, if people have them, let's see. How many folks would like some time? Because I could talk forever. I could ask you a million questions, but if you would like some time, if you'd like me to leave like 10 minutes towards the end to ask Eden some questions, can you raise your hand? Okay, I see a couple of folks. Is anybody else? Can you raise your hand? All right. So I'll leave like, yeah, I'll leave like 8 to 10 minutes just so that we make sure that we can get some questions in from the crowd. Um, but one thing that I was interested in is could you speak a little bit to what some of your favorite parts of your software engineering journey have been so far, and some of the most difficult parts of your software engineering journey so far?
Yes. Um, some parts that I really enjoyed, like learning system design.
Mm.
I'm really a big picture person, and I'm really into like the idea of Lego blocks, of like composing things and putting them together. And system design is you're able to do that because there's not one answer, there's many different answers. So that was a really enjoyable part for me. Somewhere that I struggled was lead code. Lead code was, most times there's a specific way of doing things. Yes, you can do it in different ways, but generally there's an algorithm to how you do it. And it took some time for me to reinforce that. But I think what really put everything together for me was the mentality that just come up and show up that day. And also a good night's rest is like the best debugger.
Yeah,
If you don't know today, trust me, you take a nap, you go to sleep, you come back the next day, something just clicks. Your mind is fresh, and you can start tackling that idea. Even and it's a lovely thing. So definitely be easy on yourself whenever you're tackling a new challenge and it seems foreign. Sometimes you need to look at 5 different topics, over the span of the month. Next thing you know, you go back to the topic that you were struggling with and things are just clicking.
I love that. Thank you so much. I think sleep is so important too.
Yes.
That always helps. Oh, yay. No problem, Amanda. Okay, I'm gonna ask one last question, then I'll open it out to everybody. Because it seems like some folks want to ask questions as well. So just want to say that it's been so beautiful to hear about what you are working on now and your whole journey. And also just to have worked with you for a period of time as well. Eden and I were fellows together in the on-site program. So it's really awesome to get to catch up with him and hear how things are going. But just wanted to kind of reflect high level on where you started from and where you are at now. How do you feel like your life has kind of changed since you went through this software engineering journey?
Yes. I think there's no, it's not hidden. Being in the tech industry pays a lot better than other industries. So it feels a lot better to have that burden off of my shoulder, to have a little bit more income coming in. That's definitely been beautiful. It definitely helps my skin glow a lot more. Uh, Another thing also is I enjoy it so much in terms of the problem solving. Sometimes I'm, of course, banging my head trying to figure out why is this not working. But that sweet moment where I just erased one line of code and it worked is all worth it.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and yeah, just generally, I definitely think that my mind has definitely transformed in terms of how I see problems in my daily life. Um, I know that I can kind of recompose and just take a moment and just think about things differently thanks to this new engineering mindset that I have.
Absolutely. I think that's so beautiful. You have a totally new skill set for approaching problems and probably a lot of confidence in yourself as well from like making this shift and being so successful at it. So I think that's really, really beautiful. Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing. I love it. I think that I will open up the Zoom room to anybody who has any questions. If you have a question, you can throw it in the chat. You can raise your hand, your Zoom hand. Yeah, Austin, please go ahead.
Hey Eden, this has been really awesome. Thanks so much for taking the time to talk with us and share your experiences. So the perspective of my question is I'm currently in the CodeSmith program. I'm in the part-time program. So I'm kind of visualizing and planning around what my job hunt's going to look like, come Christmas time when I graduate. And I'm getting definitely apprehensive about getting into an interview situation and talking about my experience and needing to sort of prove or at least demonstrate like, hey, I have the experience it takes to solve the problems that are part of this role. So I was wondering, just with your experience having done the very same thing, going from boot camp into that awesome role, what was it like to be able to kind of tell a compelling story about your technical experience having come through the boot camp path?
Yeah, I think that the compelling story is going to be very nuanced. It's going to be dependent on the person and what your story is. I think the biggest thing is that companies know um, whether they're open to someone who's transitioned or not. And if the company is not open, forget them. We don't want to be with them. We want to be with companies who have that open mind. So I think it's a lot about not worrying about necessarily that story because it's going to be nuanced. Take your time, craft it, reach out to folks, reach out to me, take a look at it, revise it, get confident with it. I think the number one thing is being confident. Like I would say the same story, shaky voice, no call back the next day. Same story, relaxed, get the call back the next day. So it's a bit of a nuance, but yeah, the companies will let you know whether they're open or not.
Love that. Super, super valuable. Thank you, Eden. Terry, go ahead.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you, Carly, and thank you, Eden, for just doing this for us. So, my question kind of has a little bit of a layer to it, but feel free to be as brief or expand as much as you want. Um, Understanding that number one, we're getting to know you as a person and your entire journey, but then we're also doing this in celebration of Juneteenth. And
Mhm.
so, for those that are watching this live and also on recording, people are going to fall into one of two categories: those that relate directly to the similar experience, with you being an African American male in the tech industry, and then there's going to be many that are not of that culture and don't have some of those things. So, what advice or just what would you want to know or impart on, excuse me, or pass on to those that aren't black in tech like you, but we're non-black and we're coming into tech? What about your experience or journey is it important for us to know that would make us not only better engineers, but just better champions in the entire space for everybody? And then
Mm.
on the flip side of that, for those that are watching this that do relate, that may be African American, either male or female, and have some similar challenges that you have, what can they do that are either live or watching this and recording, or what is it good for them to know when venturing into a space that traditionally doesn't have us in there? So it's kind of two part. Hopefully that's not too much, but for those that aren't necessarily going through the same struggles that you may have, what is it good for them to know, or what should they know or keep in mind moving through this space? And those that do relate, what should they know coming into the space?
Yeah, great question. So for those who may not relate, that they should generally know, um, folk I think it's mainly perseverance. Um, Perseverance and having a growth mindset. If you have a growth mindset, almost anything is possible. And I say almost because we're definitely confined by the limits of space-time reality. But if you take the time to really as- craft your life in a way where you plan, execute, and then think about what happened, reflect on what has happened. Using that as a method to continue your growth is always going to be my number one go-to. And then those who fit, who relate to me and other Black engineers, you're worthy. Uh, you deserve to be in this space like anyone else. Yes, there's going to be cultural barriers, but just continue to have faith that um, you that others will take time to know your strength and what you who you are. I feel like it definitely is difficult to sometimes be the other in certain spaces, but you wouldn't be there if you weren't deserving. So continue to know that you're worthy.
Beautiful question and a beautiful answer. Thank you so much, Eden and Terry.
Yes, thank you, Terry.
And I love that plan, execute, reflect. I think that is really, really beautiful as well. A nice mantra. I see a question from Sam in the chat about cloud platforms. Do you see that, Eden? So it looks like Sam is asking, which cloud platform are you using at the New York Times? And do you use it daily? More of a technical question.
That's a great question. So in my role, I don't have to operate with cloud platforms that often. We do work with GCP or Google Cloud Platform and AWS. And I think also it might be also a greater question like what what cloud platform should I work on or should I practice? My suggestion would be whatever is the most popular at the time, which I think is AWS. And the reason why I say that is because a lot of times companies have a specific way of doing things or proprietary systems. So if you have a general idea or knowledge of one cloud platform, it kind of spans across the other cloud platforms. There's minor nuances. So once you learn one, you can confidently explain to an employer that you're able to onboard or ramp up to others.
Beautiful, incredible. Thank you so much, Eden. Any other questions from the audience out there that I might have missed? I'm checking the chat. Yes, I agree, Terry. Definitely like learning JavaScript and then adding another language to your tool belt. All right, awesome. Well, I think then we may wrap up here. I just really want to say, first off, actually, a quick question. Eden, for the holiday, what do you think that you might be up to tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm looking for a nice barbecue to go to. So if you have anything, hit me up.
Nice. I love it. I unfortunately have been, well, not unfortunately, I'm very lucky to be in Mexico City right now. Super excited about that. But normally I would be going to, there's an event that happens in Fort Greene Park that's super beautiful. So I'll be missing it. I missed it on Sunday, and then there's other events that I will unfortunately be missing. Yes, Terry, if in LA area, we're doing Juneteenth 5K at 8 a.m. Oh my God, I'm so
Mhm.
impressed. That is so cool. Awesome. Well, everybody, it was so wonderful to see you all today. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you, Eden, for bringing your beautiful energy to this event and for sharing all of that knowledge with everybody here. We really appreciate you and everything that you do for the Codesmith community. And I hope that everybody has a beautiful rest of your day. Please reach out if we can help with anything. All right. Have a good one, everyone. Bye. Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Of course. Of course. I'm going to end the meeting. Bye, everyone. Bye. Bye. Bye.